Okay, hi everyone. I decided to go ahead and go live, see who's around, see if anyone wanted to join me. I am going to drop this. Give me a second because I am going to drop this link in a couple of places to. Oh, wait, I should probably do this first. So I have had a really pretty awesome past couple of days. And I'm wondering how everybody else has been doing. I definitely noticed quite a few things. I've gotten some affirmations on a few things, some confirmations on a few things that I've known for a while. That when you kind of talk about it's shocking to people, or they don't want to feed into that conspiracy theory, or whatever the case might be. And I just am really, really happy when I know that I'm not the only one who, sees some things. And we're all different. We're all going to see different things. We're all going to have different knowings, I think. And I think that that is related to. Let me find my channel for a second, guys. That's related to a lot of things. I see sometimes I think it can be related to the gender energy that is predominant within us, okay? And I'm going to say it like that because I think right now we are in a transition time, and I watched a really, really inspiring and thought-provoking and intelligent interview earlier today, just before Doc went on, about the divine feminine energy coming onto the planet from this young woman's perspective. And she was so on point. It just makes me go back to some of the things. Hi, Dark Truth. Some of the things that I've been. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Here's a link for anyone who wants to join. Here is a link for anyone who would like to join the Hangout. Would. Okay. And then let me get this and drop it over in a couple places. Copy. Okay. Let's get back to, sorry about that. All right, so getting back to what I was talking about. So I watched a really amazing conversation this morning, I started to say. And the one of the things that she talked about was the kind of the and I've noticed this as well. And I think, if we really were to think about it and talk about it together, that, this program, this is about breaking the programming, breaking the matrix, breaking out of our own, getting out of our own programming and indoctrination and just the shit that we were born into. As children, we were our innocence was our creator energy. It was our essence was still pure, and we still, operated from childlike wonderment, and where anything is possible. And over just a matter of almost minutes, for we are bombarded with this construct that has been completely fucked up for centuries. So my point being that there are the male and female energies that are on this planet right now are going through huge transformations. And so one of the things that they discussed in this interview was the divine feminine, like Me Too movement, where, finally well, again, okay, now there's nothing new under the sun, okay? It's going to have to really boil down to how are we going to rewrite this? Because if we keep doing the same shit's, nothing, it's insanity, because it doesn't make any difference. So, but I think it's important, I mean, there's multiple end games going on here, depending on what you see. What I see is that there is going to be some catastrophic events, and there is, when is that going to happen? Who knows? How much of it does it have it? I don't think it's going to be like just one snap of the fingers event. I think it's events that are going to come over time. And I think within those events, um, we're being given opportunity to kind of rewrite our own history, or remember the history that we already have within us, within our um, ancestral DNA. And so this is kind of what I see really going on, is that there's an awakening of our ancestral DNA. There's a healing of our ancestral DNA. And this is why, like, some people are in different places in regards to waking up that memory, um, of waking up that memory within themselves. And just like any part of the awareness process, or that we all go through at different places in our life and on different levels, and so many different levels. And is it at this point, who knows where we are within that collectively, if and on a worldwide scale, I suppose. So there's some people that are, still really, really early in it. And thank goodness, like, people seem to have gotten away from the whole, calling people sheeple business, because it's just where a person is at, and having compassion and understanding uh, for others and where they're at. I mean, that's what we're here to do. We are here to help kind of guide each other through that process in a positive way. That is what Sophia's correction, okay, is. And in that correction, it's important that we understand that there's a difference between punishment and discipline, where I see discipline as being more of a alchemical transformation kind of process, uh, because it is about willpower. And how much willpower are we going to have within our awareness? Because once are we aware, are we really living that state of awareness? And to what degrees? It's certainly easier not to. Certainly easier sometimes it's kind of a twofold thing. Like, I don't know, once we put it into practice, does it become easier? And really, breaking the program is a trippy place. It's just a trippy place, because there's so much subconscious shit that's going on. And at the same time, we oh, hi, Stone. We're allowed to I don't know what all this is. So watching, see. Okay, so anyway, So where are we in our own awareness? Okay, so one of the things that they talked about, now this was another really interesting thing in this interview, and let me pull it up for you and screen share who it is for a second. I have just started. I've only, I don't like watch this person on a daily basis. I just happened to click on this interview, and I'm so glad that I did, because it's a fantastic, fantastic interview. So let me find that for you guys really quick here. And I will put the link to it in the chat history. So there's a few things about watching this interview. Now, not only was the topic spot on, his guest talking about, the divine feminine matriarchal energy. She didn't, it was interesting because she didn't have a lot of information about like how matriarchal societies have been, evidence of it. So I was really glad that I was there in the chat, and I'm really glad that Seven has done the work that he's done to, put those pieces together. The serpent goddess, who seems to be dominant in so many cultures and ancient cultures around the world. And so I was able to throw that in the chat conversation, to kind of, back the question of the host. Is there evidence of these ancient matriarchal societies? And her reference, it was cute because her reference was, well, it's, they talk about Atlantis, okay, which I thought was kind of cute, as a reference point, and that she didn't really know all about it. So anyway, what really was inspiring about the conversation, because we're talking about two young adults here as well, which I think I've mentioned quite a bit, that it is the people in their early 20s, like the age of my children, the millennials, if you want to call them that. I don't even know what are the ones that come after that. And I hate labeling and stuff like that, but it's true. We need to be talking to our young adults because they're really far more aware of what's going on here. Okay, let me open this and get the link. Far more aware of what's really going on, and trying to figure out ways to change the situation. And we're just not communicating with them as much as we should be. And honestly, I think that they could really help us kind of break free from our own programmings or layers of those onions, which have been going on for far longer than themselves. I mean, how much programming do they really have? They've kind of got a bum rap, They keep trying to put on them that they don't know what's going on. They're living in, the basements, they're whatever. It's it's a bum rap. The reality is they've grown up with, the YouTube um, truth seeking community, and have a much better idea of what's really going on than we do. And think about it, as children, when they were discovering all these things or seeing all of these things, which so contradict like what their, primary givers are teaching them. Like, is that trauma in itself? That your caregivers, your primary caregivers, your parents, okay, are completely clueless, and you're a kid going, I'm being given such contradictory messages about the reality of this place, and how do I make sense of that all? So now they're in their okay, so here's a link to that interview. So now they're older, right? And they're starting to refine their ideas. They're starting to really get a better grip on what the fact that they are creators and how to be creators within this. There's another thing that I see happening, a kind of another level of awareness that's happening right now, and I've made reference to in a couple of my videos about C.W. Chanter and him kind of breaking a kind of little bubble, like, and I guess in a way I talked about it, but in a different way. It's definitely refined now. I talked about this a year ago, bringing the truth community together to get everybody kind of on the same page of awareness, right? And to talk about that. And I kind of see that happening now to where, okay, as a truth seeker who's producing content, you in awareness, what is the content that you are producing? Have you really done your research, or are you just you know, in that place where you're just taking the information as it being truth, just because it happens to float through the truth community, you know? And and another one that, so I think that's great. I think that's great that that's happening. Um, and this is where I think our accountability uh, comes back into play as well, that we're really beginning to um, kind of figure out our own accountability in all of this. And there's a healing process that goes behind this. So this is one of the things, and I really feel that in the older matriarchal energy, uh, like our elders, okay, our female elders, that there's a lot of healing that needs to go on, that there's a lot of recognition of, okay, we dropped the ball, we allowed the ball to be dropped at one point, we were manipulated into it, but it still happened, we still dropped the ball, and by the time we realized it was too late, we were just completely sucked into the um our roles as women, as mothers, as caregivers, as nurturers within the family unit fell apart. And our children were then, we are smart, intelligent, beautiful beings. We have every right to have equality within the workplace, but to dismiss the importance of our roles within the family unit, um, and basically allow, daycares to raise our children. And I think that we realized at one point that this isn't working out, but we already got sucked into the mortgages and the car notes and the health insurance and the keeping up with the Joneses, I guess, it for some, for a lot. And so now I'd really like to have Mr. Stanley, I blame women for all my problems. Well, aren't you just a sweetheart? But this is a good point that you brought this up, because okay, so yes, so now women have to be the older women have to be held accountable, and at no blame. This isn't a blame game, but it is being accountable and being responsible and saying, okay, yeah, this is how it is. This is how it happened. We got suckered in. We got totally suckered in to a false belief system, a false narrative of what success was, and we ran with it. So now let's just accept responsibility for that, and how are we going to fix that? So what this young woman was talking about, and this is really interesting because her focus is so intense on her inspiring women to stand up into their divine feminine, that the host asked her a couple of questions about kind of some mainstream stuff going on, like the social justice warriors or the Me Too movement, and his perspective versus her perspective. And this was, her answers were great. And she talked about how this is a grieving process. Now, I've talked about this before too. This is a grieving process, both male and female, when we become aware that our whole life has been nothing but a deceptive manipulation. And I think that we are becoming even more and more aware of that in regard to our own lineage that has been systematically, attempted to be erased. And reconnecting to that, because I think there is a genetic DNA importance to who we really are. I think it'd be freaking awesome to be Hyperborean myself. But I think the path back there is through our healing, at the very least, our healing of our own lineage, our own ancestral lineage. And for myself, that has absolutely been part of the whole process that I've gone through, the transmuting negative energies into positive. At one point, sitting under the trees outside, when I reconnected with Mother Nature and was being nurtured by her, I recognized that within my own ancestral lineage, that there was some healing that needed to be done there as well. I was connecting with that energy. So even if it's just it now, so let's bring that into the 3D. Okay, so now I've done some spiritual healing of my ancestral lineage. Excuse me, but now let's bring that into the 3D experience. Okay, my grandma still, well, my grandma passed away recently, but if my grandmother were still alive, my mother's still alive, you know, I would like to hear those voices and hear their stories about how they felt now that they're older and having lived through this huge deception period. And in this huge deception, when we become aware of all of that. So this is getting back to what this young woman was saying about the energy of this whole kind of inflated rage within our younger generation of females happening right now. And it's a grieving process of rage. They're in rage right now, and that we should be having compassion for that process, because we're discovering that how bad, how deep, how long the oppression and suppression of feminine energy has been manipulated on this planet. And then he also brought a very good point and so did she. They had a completely wonderful discussion about the hurts and pains that this has created across the board for the masculine energy as well. And so there is a kind of a grieving process that is taking place, and it does encompass rage, and we should be lifting each other up through it and talking about it. Seven Serpent says the ancestor effect. Think well of your ancestors. Hallelujah for that. Because if I think about my ancestors, okay, we've taken my lineage back to the Vikings, and think about the programming. Now, think about this, because I have thought about it. What kind of programming is that? That the Vikings were these, rape and pillage people. I don't think they were necessarily rape and pillage people. What if they were just a people who was trying to stop the erasure of their beliefs? What they're and so deeply rooted in nature. That's a deep wound if you think about it. I would question why they were trying to because, okay, for instance, in the television show The Vikings, okay, I haven't watched but a couple of snippets of it, and it was when I was doing my research about um, the Norse gods. Or no, excuse me, when I was doing my research about Newt the Viking, who I'm actually ancestrally linked. He's in my genetic whatever ancestors.com. You know what I'm talking about. The family has done it. We're directly linked to Newt the Viking. Newt the Viking happened to be a Norse king of like 5 different countries, actually, who really brought that region together, and would then became king of England. Where I think in order to kind of unite and stop, warring, he had to adopt into the flavor of the day, which was Christianity, and the church. And so I don't think he necessarily sold out. What if he was actually doing something to preserve at that time? Because you've had a huge empire that was in place with the Roman Empire as well. But so when I was doing my research, you don't hear much about Newt the Viking, actually. I should probably do a whole video on that, because you really don't hear much about Newt the Viking, and who he really was, and the disgusting part to me of it is that when I watched some snippets in the TV series The Viking, when I was doing my research, Newt the Viking is portrayed in there as this freaking rape and pillage monster. They don't talk about, like, him uniting uh, tribal, root countries to stop the warring between them. I don't know. So what's the real story there? So even that in itself, just knowing that, I don't have to buy into that my Viking lineage was just a peoples of rape and pillage. I can actually um, buy into more easily what has been written and passed down, the little evidence that we do have of the Norse practices, and in connection with Mother Nature. I'm buffering. Why am I buffering? Okay. Anyway, so I really appreciate, like, the work that Seven has been doing, and I think that a lot of it too with um just like when I went down that path about, really discovering my ancestral roots, I see your focus there, and your research is so much better than mine ever got. And I see other researchers out there doing it. So I really thank you for doing that and presenting it, and uh, hopefully inspiring other people to go down that path as well. I do think that there was and you can link it through with those little pouches that they carried. This there's something about the and it's a creator in some way. A creator, maybe it's an accountability. You say the word, I say the words. When I say the words priest, or uh, it brings up such negative connotations, because when it's associated with the church, and that's our indoctrination, and that's our current experience. But in the past, that was something very different. Hi, Omar. Self-divination. Interesting, yes. Uh, in connection with the greater kind of galactic, cosmic Earth, it was all very connected in a very wise way, that really allowed for, I think, us to vibrate, if anything, in our higher selves, because we managed that energy differently. I think when I think about the Hyperborean, I think it is a state of being that we are connected to, that we can connect to, that we can call into this dimensional space, um, and kind of resonate vibrationally, okay, for real, using sound, using color, using using all these things that we're learning about to really access those different realms. And so here's what I just thought about, which is really kind of interesting. So the D-Wave computer, the quantum computer, they talk about how it's accessing other dimensional realities and bringing back information. Well, hello, we can do the same thing, right? That's kind of the way that I see it. Now, here's really interesting too. The past few days, I've been watching. Okay, so when I used to be when I was shown um, the binary solar system, because that's what I ultimately have uh, recognized it to be, not this destructive planet Nibiru. Okay. Um, there were cams that I was obsessively watching every day. One of the things that I talked about back then that I saw was holes. Okay, well, first of all, the imagery that we're seeing with the sun, with the black hole in the center of it, okay, and they're saying that this is our digital cameras being able to block the sun so that we can actually take pictures, okay? And this is what it does. Whatever that explanation, it's bullshit. I've seen things go into the sun, come out of the sun. I've seen plasma ejections going in and out of the sun. I've seen color rays going in and out of the sun. I've seen dragons going in and out of the sun. I have seen in that black hole in the center of the sun clarity and other planetary bodies. So, and this is now coming back up in topic again, or at least it is, and it was shown to me recently. Okay, the plasma ejections that are happening and scooting across the ground. I saw those 2 years ago, captured them on cam. I was telling people this is plasmas racing across the ground. It's like lightning racing across the ground. Tell me you don't need to be aware of that, because it is an electric universe. This is happening. This is happening on the surface of this planet. It's obviously happened in the past. Hello, look at the Grand Canyon. I mean, the imagery of the Grand Canyon from above is just like the electric universe imagery that were being shown on Thunderbolt's project that's happening on Mars. That's has happened on Mars. It's plasma strikes. And this would actually make sense for why there's so many civilizations around, ancient civilizations around this planet that had underground dwellings. Well, if you've got, and think about just like the past few years in India, okay, you've got like massive lightning strikes, or, hundreds of people are being struck by lightning and dying, you know. I've seen it go across the ground. Just to be aware, just awareness. I'm glad that people, Mia's new pair of glasses, she lives here in California. What actually attracted me to her channel, and I didn't become a devout watcher of her channel, it was just confirmation of the time. At the time, as she was seeing the same kind of skyship stuff here in California along our coastline that I've been seeing. This is a bleeding through of multi-dimensional craft, as far as I can tell. Or is that just my perception? And is it simply the electric universe doing its thing? It just happens to look like some kind of craft, happens to look like white feathered dragons because they're organic craft for sure. Some are, some aren't. I've seen, okay, how about this one? Are you ready for this one? I've seen on those craft armies in black with helmets, guns, boots, the whole 9 yards, standing on the top of an interdimensional organic craft, feathered dragon, but at the helm of that dragon was a Norse Indo-European man with reins. I don't think I've ever told anybody that one. But I saw it. I've also in digital imagery have seen a lot of Egyptian symbology, like uh, like literally those gods appearing digitally in a digital backdrop. That makes me wonder. That brings up another topic. Like, okay, so this kind of ties back to what color was the dragon? The dragon was in that particular. Um, that may not have been a dragon. That may have been a serpent that he was holding the reins to. Actually, in that particular one, there was a few of them in that. There was a few of them in that image. There's serpents that they ride around, and there's also dragon. But the dragons are mostly up in the sky. They're not the ones that are on the ground. The serpents are on the ground for real. You know, the Omar, I don't know if you saw this as well, but in the fires here in California last year, they were burning those, from what I can perceive, they're like interdimensional elementals. Just for lack of knowing what the fuck they really are, that's kind of how I perceive it. They don't want any to cause any harm to anybody, but I think that they were bleeding through in the dimension so clearly at that particular time that they were having to burn shit down to get people out of the area. uh, they were burning. I mean, you can clearly see in the imagery of any of those fires in California, you can see the serpents that are burning. And here's really another, if you've ever seen if you've ever seen the if you really look, okay, and I even did a video myself when we had a campfire out last summer out in the desert, and that campfire burned like and I grew up in, you know, camping and having campfires. Like, this is my first rodeo, you know, so I know what a campfire looks like. I know how to build one, make one, all that. The color of this campfire was like no other color. It was violet. It was plasma energy color. And if you look at the fire imagery from California, it was the same thing there as well. there's the way that that fire was burning and the color of it was not like it was not like your normal fires. In the same way that the sun is not the same color as what we remember it to be, our fire is not the same color that we remember it to be. So in these, and for whatever reason, I keyed into it first in the digital imagery realm, and really started to. I had to question at one point whether or not, okay, am I being manipulated digitally to see these things? Because there's no doubt there's some digital imagery that's being manipulated on the internet, for instance, or maybe not. Okay, because I just thought about this. What if it's just another part of this whole bleeding through of another dimension and that we didn't see before that now we're seeing? Because if you look at like old photographs, uh, old photographs have the clouds, these clouds that never were before, are now in old photographs. I don't remember seeing those clouds. And what's really crazy too is like, not only do I remember seeing them, but they came out with a whole nother list of 20 new kinds of clouds that we're all of a sudden seeing. They gave them names. But now we're all of a sudden seeing them. Now they have names. Were they always there in those old time pictures? We just never noticed them before? Or is that part of like this Mandela effect thing? Which is really, in my opinion, just another effect of the bleeding through of the convergence of these dimensional realities. And that's how I see it. I see it as a convergence. Like this is a convergence place. And how interesting is that? I just think that's really cool. And I don't know if it necessarily has to be a spiritual war place either. Like, can we take control of that and rewrite that part of the story? Like, I think that electrically, that we're moving to an universe. I saw another fantastic video. It wasn't by mistake that I was shown this video yesterday. And we're talking about the plasma more. We're talking about like some of the symbology that's in our ancient caves that are actually what identical to plasma symbology. So is this the time that we're going through? And now, science is coming up with more explanations about what is the black hole. And black hole sun, and is the sun a portal? I don't think the sun is this ball of fire. I think it's this ball of electricity. And are we moving through it? I hope I don't run into myself. Dark truth. I think we already are. I think we can't help it. Here's something. Have you noticed how people are starting to look younger? People who are really tapping in to this this energy opportunity in whatever capacity their intuition is telling them to do so. It's changing. Not only changing our this is why I keep talking about sensory perception. Our sensory perception is such a huge part of this whole energy convergence in, we don't go anywhere. We actually create something new right here. And as we're moving through a change in spatial place and time, okay, so our sensory perception is extremely important there. And in sensory perception is vibrational energy. So, whatever you're into, I suppose we're all getting to the same kind of place to some degree or another. Really, I don't think we have a choice. I think the choice really is kind of how do you want to choose to experience it? in which dimensional reality do you want to experience it all in all of them at the same time? Do you want to be the one who's opening the portals and going through them? Or do you want to just be, stuck on the ride and where somebody else says that you need to go? I kind of don't want to do that because that's what's created this construct as it is somebody else programming us into this current energy vibration. And so breaking free, I don't know, it's like the self warrior. Okay, so hi, C. Greg. Welcome to my channel. I don't know if I've ever seen you before. He says fire with water can entertain lightning. Yeah, plasma. The plasma's coming, folks. So it's already here. You can see it happening. You can see it in the waves in the clouds. That's plasma energy. Berkelen currents are going all over the place. You're just, it's mostly out in the countryside right now. Don't think that some of these fires haven't just straight up been started by plasma ejections. You want to get all conspiracy theory about it and say that it's our own government that, is using some kind of beam technology. Well, that's what they want you to believe. It's almost like the CERN thing, okay? Like, are you going to feed into the dimensional reality where they're opening portals to demonic energies or entities and letting them come through? And maybe they are. And if they are, then what are you doing to protect yourself against that? Maybe they're just trying to kind of control the level of destruction that is they know it has happened in the past on this planet by moving us into a different area of space, kind of get us out of the way, per se. I don't know. Yeah, smart meters. You know what? See, Greg. um I don't know about so they recently installed smart meters here in where I live, and literally I have the one right outside my window, and every neighbor, I'm completely encircled within a 50-yard radius all around me by smart meters. Now, I almost fed into these things are making me sick. And for a while they were, because I was feeding into that energy for sure. There's devices that we can get. I saw all kinds of them at the Conscious Life Expo, and I've talked about them in the past. Build your little copper pyramid, your orgone pyramid, your Tesla coil energy healing art. I think that they can work. I think that there's something to all of that. Maybe it's just if we believe in it enough, it'll work. I don't know. Maybe it was just a matter of, okay, I needed to eat healthier. I needed to lose some weight. I needed to get out and ground with Mother Nature again. And hey, lo and behold, I'm not being smart metered to death. My mind isn't being controlled. Now, do they have the capability of ramping that shit up? Maybe. So I guess I better ramp my own shit up. They've been helping us as well. Yeah, I'm starting to really see, that if you can't tell people that, okay, our history shows that we're on the path of some, planetary catastrophic shit, right? Then, and you're doing your best to try and block the radiation bursts, that are coming from wherever and whatever, maybe that's all that's really going on. And you can't really tell people, otherwise they're really going to go into a panic, and then they're really going to start rape and pillage because they're idiots. I didn't just say that, but yeah, I did. There's a lot of ignorant people out there, and we should really, I don't get pleasure in saying that by any means. I really don't. If anything, that is the feminine energy of compassion, because a lot of people are going to be deceived, and a lot of people are not going to kind of make it through to the other side of this. And I think that we do need to have a lot more compassion for that understanding, because we're going to ultimately end up witnessing that, and it's not going to be pretty. So be prepared, like children, right? We can create a heaven on earth. Um, but I think it may not get better before it may get worse before it gets better, you know? And are we going to remember any of it through this time? Oh yeah, it's not a be scared kind of thing. There is no be scared. That's why I keep saying, like, really, it's the 3D experience. We've really been blessed with this experience. I feel totally blessed that I kind of have awareness of what's going on enough to know that I fucking want to live this experience to the best of my ability. That I want to have fun in this experience, like while there's still fun to be had. And this was kind of the this takes me back to, when I bonded with Mother Earth again, which was the most profound, which connected me to the bliss, which connected me to the creator energy. It was that deep desire of, I've got to go put my feet in the sand to water the grass and the dirt. That, I think, is our saving grace in this all, is to be connected there. And learn how to the best of our ability, how to live in harmony with her, uh, to be able to recreate something new. Omar says, change is a thing that counters comfortability, and people, most of them, don't want to know, let alone experience it. Yeah, yeah. It's that false narrative of success that, keeping up with the Joneses, having that playing the Matrix game, that's the successful game to play. We can learn to utilize it to our advantage. Uh, Manipulate it back into our favor to some degree, but we don't have to believe in the false narrative of consumerism as being that's what success is by any means. And with that, I think I will end this. Next time, maybe y'all will want to join me in the conversation. I would absolutely love that. I was really, anyway, I'll keep doing these, and that time will come. And much love to everybody. Y'all have a fantastic day. I got to go do the dishes. Bye now.